I will briefly speak about what this hackathon is about, why we chose to focus on the microbiome, what kinds of opportunities I see for students and researchers, as well as companies that might want to participate. So let's start by briefly talking about why microbiome. I have some stats here on the slide that basically show that startups that focus just on the gut microbiome for health clues raised over 1 billion in VC funding over the past 5 years. This is 2020 and before. So what we see is a tremendous interest in the space from the venture capital community. And that just gives you a perspective on the overall interest in how microbiome can be involved in health, disease, and wellness. Now, we're not going to focus on disease here, but we are going to talk about wellness. So as you can see, it's a hugely growing field and industry. You can see that there are a lot of patent applications that are being applied for. And this has grown almost, I would say, exponentially since the 2010, 2011. And down here, you can see how this interest has a practical direction. So we're not just interested in the microbiome, the basic science of the microbiome, how it works, but we're actually seeing a lot of interest in trying to apply these insights and translate them into some kind of a product or an intervention. So what we decided to do is kind of take a look at data-driven innovation. And what we want to provide the community, the broader community with, are data sets that describe real-world studies and experiments, intuitive solutions, so you can see what kinds of things are people building and what are they doing with this kind of data, and then explain how such data could be analyzed, visualized, and presented in a meaningful way. So for those students and faculty who are interested, we think that this is an opportunity to innovate, solve, and connect. Innovate by being creative, open, and collaborate with others. You can come at these existing solutions that are being addressed by others with an out-of-the-box thinking approach. You can really do something novel. You will also see that this is an opportunity to showcase how you can solve complex problems. And so for a lot of students, this is a way to showcase their abilities, stand out from the crowd, really kind of apply what you have learned, what you know, to a new challenge. And connecting is an important factor here as well. So by working with people who are from the business community, from the research community, from the computer science community, you will see that this interdisciplinary aspect is a huge component of innovation. And we hope that this hackathon could be an opportunity for you to do just that. Now, this is going to be a virtual event, so you don't have to be physically at any single location. You can participate from India, from Africa, from Brazil, from the US, anywhere in the world, really. And I think the benefit of that is because we can see that these trends are going to continue and grow in the future. So not only have we seen work being disrupted, innovation and collaboration has been disrupted as well. And I think that at one side kind of disrupts the way things have been done, but it also provides extreme new opportunities. So if you're in India, you might be thinking, yes, this investment might be happening in the US. How can I actually be involved? But the truth is that more and more venture capital firms in the US are looking outside of the US to find innovation. In the US, you might be thinking, well, how do I do something differently from the way that it's done here, right? And this is an opportunity to find people who might have completely different ideas, different audiences, different targets. Ultimately, this is an opportunity to build and compete. And by building is very different than doing research, right? So we've seen a lot of interest in research problems that result in academic publications. Maybe this is intellectual property, but it is often not a product. And so what we hope to see out of this event are more ideas that have practical applications, or at least a direction at that kind of a solution. What kinds of topics are we going to cover? We're going to focus here on 3 different topics that are all extremely relevant, popular, and interesting in the domain of microbiome. The first one, this is probably something that the majority of the people know about and is the most obvious one, is the obesity and precision nutrition. And what that means is that the gut microbiome has been studied enough to show that there is a critical connection between different types of foods and lifestyles with obesity and precision nutrition. This also has to do with food being a functional medicine. So that means that some conditions, even though they are early on, can become chronic and very complicated to treat with drugs, with surgery, with these severe interventions. But at an earlier stage, they could really be prevented with dieting, with different types of functional foods that help the gut microbiome be restored and function properly. The second, maybe a little bit less known field of application for the microbiome is skin aging and beauty. And we'll actually have an innovator herself and a startup founder herself, but also a researcher, speak about what are some of those innovative and cutting edge applications of the microbiome to the field of beauty and aging. And then the final one is something that all of us have gone through in some way, and this is pregnancy and femtech. So a lot of the microbiome studies have pointed to different associations between, different types of pregnancy that has healthy or more risky outcomes. And so this is a field that definitely has a lot of impact as well. So for obesity and nutrition, we see that the gut microbiome has been studied for associations between diet and the microbiome, healthy weight loss, risk of diabetes, personalized nutrition plans, recommendations on pre and probiotics, as well as different types of sensitivities. And you can see that there are a lot of clinical trials, which means that there's a lot of data sets that are available to test and identify interesting insights from these data sets. So we'll introduce those data sets, and we'll also talk about some of the industry challenges. Now, in the field of the gut microbiome, the obvious challenge is that there are some established companies that come out with very similar tests at pricing that varies between approximately $60 and $200 or more than $200. They use different techniques and they provide different types of insights, but all of them claim to be the best, the most advanced, the most comprehensive. So the question is, which one is the best, the most comprehensive, the most insightful, and what are some of those use cases that could be turned into innovation that could kind of change the way that things are done today? The skin and microbiome has a lot of applications, from rashes to acne to wrinkles, blemishes, longevity and aging. And so since more and more people are aware of how their skin looks and what they do to make it look better, this has become already an opportunity for people to develop new products. And those new products include things you can buy on Amazon, like New Biome is a type of a company that produces a lotion that is matching your skin microbiome. So really interesting direct applications that are already being done in the industry. Now, the question is, how do these things work? And what are some opportunities to introduce new ideas into this space? Now, in the field of femtech, there's also a lot of studies going on for healthy childbirth, immunity and conception, antibiotics, diet and activity, reproductive health. And there are already these products being sold on the market. So I think that there's a lot of interesting associations, even in things like the child's psychology over the years being influenced by childbirth and the mother's microbiome. So there's a lot of interesting ideas here, and I think that this would be an opportunity to both learn about what those things are and try to develop some innovative product. Now, we are going to try to prepare everyone to focus on real problems and real solutions that are possible, that are realistic. And for that, we're going to bring in experts to speak about different types of sequencing technologies. As I mentioned, curated data repositories where you can actually find some of these studies and do something with them. People that specialize in business analysis and framing the problem in business terms, as well as user experience. How do you not only produce an example, but actually turn that into an experience that somebody can use. Why sequencing technologies? Well, sequencing technologies have been one of the main drivers of cost, accessibility, and detail in this field. And so, companies like Illumina and Oxford Nanopore have developed very different approaches, but ultimately now we are in a race to the bottom of the pricing scale, right? So new technologies are becoming much more useful and affordable, and that is driving accessibility for these types of innovations. Now, for all of these different types of sequencing, there are still challenges associated with data analysis. So we will talk about how these data are analyzed, and these include multiple types of omics data, including intuitive and informative analysis types, and that's really where bioinformatics and multi-omics data analysis comes in. So we'll talk about how these types of data are analyzed and integrated. Now, after we talk about just in general, what is the logic for this kind of analysis, we'll actually make sure that everyone has access to easy to use tools that they can produce insights quickly. And we'll make sure that you have access to our TBioInfo platform with these different types of pipelines that are available on there already. Now, in addition to that, we'll talk about non-omics data, where to produce a product, you actually have to focus on finding associations between omics and non-omics data, such as maybe different types of lifestyle and activity tracking devices. This is an important topic, and we'll kind of introduce you to how that could be done and what are some of the companies that are doing this already. Now, when we think about this, we're going to look at the business aspect as well. And that means understanding these industry trends that we just spoke about, but also looking at customers and their kind of segments or portions of the customers that might be the best to focus on. And for that, we will bring in investors that will actually speak about what is working and what is not working in this microbiome, innovative space that startups are competing for funding in. And they will talk about some previous investments that have been made and whether those have been successful, unsuccessful, and in which way. Now, as I mentioned, we're not going to be the only ones talking. We're actually going to bring in experts in the field that have been working for decades from different aspects, including startup founders, people that specialize in sequencing technologies, investors, existing companies that kind of deal in this space, as well as some researchers that are exploring different opportunities with microbiome data as well. Now, primarily, this event is going to be focused on our partner universities, and that's why we are working to kind of streamline the pipeline. And the main challenge here is preparing students to be ready to address some of these interesting topics and challenges early on, right? So we don't want to spend a lot of time on the basics. We want to jump in to the real opportunities that are there. Now, we have over 10,000 members in this partnership program, and we would love to see your organization join here as well. The community that we've established has grown tremendously, and so we are really excited to see a lot of interest in this space, but we also see the need to continue and train people to be able to use omics data both for basic and translational research. So with that, I will pass it on to Dr. Raghavendran, who will speak about how this is actually going to work.